sessions is that we make that recording available. So if you've missed a part of the session or you want to review any of the content, it will be available for you. If you need a bit more detail on something, it's there, and we'll give you more details on how to access that later in the webinar. And this is Marissa. I'll just hand over to Marissa for a minute.
Hi, thanks, Paul. Hello, nice to meet you all, even though I can't see you. I'm Marissa Garusto, I'm training coordinator here at Safe System Solutions. We're in a webinar format today, so we can't see you, we can't hear you. You don't have option to turn your video on. However, we strongly encourage you to get involved, interact with us via the chat function. It's just there to the right of your screen. If you where you sort of type down below, you've got an option where you can select to type to everyone or just to the hosts and panelists. If you're making any general comments or questions that you have for Paul during the session, feel free to pop them into everyone, just so everyone else can see your comments and questions and reply back to you if they wish to. If you do have a question specifically for me, perhaps it's logistical, you're welcome just to send it to hosts and panelists, and myself, Paul and Marco will get that. So the chat function is down below where your icons are. You can see on the screen, we've got a circle, we've got a chat function, and we also have the Q&A function. The Q&A function works quite similarly. You can just pop in a question there. Sometimes you may or may not be able to view both or one or either. So you do have two functionalities there that you can use. If at any time you have any technical issues or admin logistical questions, please feel free to contact me either via the chat, or you can shoot me an email at training. My email address is there on the screen, training@safesystemsolutions.com.au. You would have received a few emails from us already, so you can just reply to that one or contact me here in the chat, whatever you prefer. If by chance your tech does fail and your Zoom is giving you all sorts of issues, quite often the best fix is to leave the webinar and then just join back in. That usually works every time. Or sometimes a good old reboot may need to happen. If by chance you miss any of the content, as Paul mentioned, the sessions are recorded, so you can go back and watch the recording a bit later on. We do also have the PDF slides up on our learning management system that you can access and follow along with, which will show you, I'll talk you through a little bit later, we'll show you online. But in terms of the learning management system, it is our online platform where we house all of the resources that you'll need for this course, for this training course. We've got a couple of activities that you'll need to do in order to pass the course and to successfully get your certificate of completion. So you should have received your login details from us. Hopefully you got those and you've been able to log in and have a look around. If by chance you don't know what I'm talking about, didn't get the emails, can't log in, shoot me an email, just send me something in the chat and I can resend those details to you. But we will have a look at the LMS at the end of the session today. Yeah, I think that's covered everything, Paul.
Great. I don't think so. Thanks, Marissa. So just before we get underway, a couple more things. One thing is we do like to give out prizes, and Marissa's got a number of prizes surrounding her there in the prize pit. So really
Marco's favourites. All of Marco's favourites.
Don't worry, they all come to me, so you'll all get them. Don't worry. Trust me.
So they're to encourage your participation in the webinar, and Marissa and Marco as well. Maybe we'll keep track of the prizes, and you actually receive something. It's not a joke. In the mail at the end of the course. You
will, and I promise you, we won't send you a stuffed toy and a Batman. We will send you something far more interesting in our merch cupboards.
Yeah, right. And we do have some competency requirements for the course to demonstrate that you understand the concepts and can apply the safety and design process to your work at Moreton Bay. There is a set quiz at the end of each module. There's 10 questions in each quiz. You have 3 attempts to pass the quiz, and if you have any issues with any of the content, you can go back and review it using the video recording that I mentioned, or we can set up some one-on-one discussion to help you sort of understand and get through those quizzes. You do need to achieve an 80% pass mark, but you do have 3 attempts to sort of go back and try again. Okay. So the program outline, I think that sort of covered our intro stuff. There's nothing else we need to cover, and yeah, we can crack on straight into it. So we've broken the training up into 2 modules. The first one is this one here, where we're at today, covers the key concepts of safety and design, and it's going to define some important terms that's really going to help you understand the concepts. The second module is a little bit more practical, and will take your understanding of safety and design and apply it to some exercises using design projects that Council has completed. So why are you here? Look, we all care about health and safety, and when we go to work, we want to go back home in the same condition and health as when we left. And so design has an important role to play to eliminate or minimise risk of injury and death in the workplace. And you can see those statistics on your screen there. The fatalities, 43 fatalities in 2021, and over 32,000 serious claims for injury to workers. The training, as I mentioned at the start, is an introduction to Council's Safety and Design Manual, which formalises Council's approach to safety and design and make sure that everyone has the same understanding of the concept and the process. I'm sure many of you in the session have some or maybe even a lot of experience in safety and design, so it's possible that what you see will be familiar to you. The Safety and Design Manual is currently in draft format, and we're running 4 of these webinars through Council, and at the conclusion of all those 4 webinars, any feedback or changes we feel we need to make, we'll update the manual, and then it will become final and made available for everyone to use. So by the end of this module, what you'll be able to do is understand the key concepts of safety and design, understand key terms around safety and design, and other key considerations that form part of the safety and design process. So we'll move into things. Now, safety and design, here's a pretty much a accepted definition of safety and design. So I'll put that out there. So it's a great starting point. You'll notice some of the terms that I'm going to flash up are bold, and those are the ones that we're going to go into more detail in. So safety and design requires a designer to ensure, as far as reasonably practical, that a structure is designed to be without risks to the health and safety of persons who, at a workplace, use the structure for the purpose for which it was designed. Secondly, construct the structure at a workplace. Carry out any reasonably foreseeable activity at a workplace, and usually we're thinking about maintenance type activities, assembly type activities there. And the last one is to the persons who are in the vicinity of a workplace and are exposed to the structure. So that could be activities that are happening around the workplace or the work that is happening on the structure. Okay. Now, we said we were going to keep things interactive, so I understand that safety and design may not be everyone's sort of idea of excitement, so our aim is to get you thinking and keep you involved throughout the session. One of the ways we're going to do that is through a number of polls, so we'll ask you to contribute answers in the chat or through polls, and we'll get underway, and we're going to uncover some of those terms that I introduced in that definition of safety and design. So workplace is one of those terms. So what is a workplace? Look, is it just an office? Is it space, a depot or construction site? There's an office there on your screen. Is it just that? Well, no, the short answer is no. So a workplace is a place where work is carried out for a business or undertaking. It includes any place where a worker goes or is likely to be at work. So under the Workplace Health and Safety Act, a workplace covers many places beyond what is maybe sometimes a traditional view of a workplace. So here's a bit of a warm-up exercise, and I'm going to present a series of photos. I'd like you to have a look at a photo and complete the sentence. So here, for example, with this photo here on the screen, it's a photo of a traffic signal control box. And I want you to complete the sentence. This is a workplace when, and I've written there, a worker installs a new personality chip in the controller for a new phasing sequence. Or it could be this is a workplace when a worker replaces the signal cabinet when a new one is needed and the old one is redundant. So I'm going to show you a photo, and we're going to think about the ways that the photo can become a workplace, and there'll be a series of polls throughout that. So let's move on to the next one. Marissa will start the poll, and there's a few answers there you have to choose from. So choose the ones that are correct, and by the end of these, you should be an expert at defining what a workplace is. Excuse me. So hopefully everyone can see that that poll there. And so the question is: this is a workplace. It's a photo of a lighting tower, a sports field. There's a path, there's a car park there. So this is a workplace when you've got four choices there. First one is when a lighting contractor engaged by the football club replaces a lighting fixture. The second one, a team decides to have a training run on a long weekend. A pipe that is part of an irrigation system leaks and needs emergency repairs done by a local plumber. Or the last one, a learner driver under the supervision of a family member practices in the car park. So we've got, well, I think that's everyone that's replied. Oh no, we're still going, sorry. There's a few more, we'll give it a few more seconds. Almost there. Okay, I'll get Marissa to close the poll and share the results, and there we have. So these are the results that we've got. So the first one, everyone agreed that that was a workplace when a lighting contractor engaged by someone does work and replaces a light fixture. The second one, a few of you thought it could be a workplace. A team decides to have a training run on a long weekend. No, it's not a workplace in that in that case. No one's engaged to do work in that situation. A pipe that is part of an irrigation system bursts and a plumber is called. Yeah, that's certainly a workplace. The plumber is engaged to do work, and a learner driver comes in and practices in the car park. It's not a situation where it's a workplace. It's just a family or someone learning to drive. So that's it's very good. You honed in on the ones that are a workplace there. So we'll move on to the next one. So this situation here is a photo of a someone. It's a road. It's a verge. There's a bit of an embankment there where there is someone snipping some grass on the embankment. We'll fire up the next poll. So yep, it's already underway. So if you can complete the question. So this is a workplace when a mowing contractor engaged by council slashes grass on the embankment. It's exactly what's happening in the photo. Not a great example of safety and design there because there's a drop off down to the road and you got the worker who is sort of leaning or on top of that bank. The second one there, a path is used by cyclists riding to the local shops. The third one, a truck delivering building supplies to a nearby building site uses the road. pothole in the road carriageway is repaired by a council maintenance crew is the last option. Give it a couple more seconds and then we'll share the results of the poll. I think we're just about there, so we will stop the poll, we'll share the results. And the first answer, 30 out of 30, they're wonderful. So, yep, in the person doing the mowing engaged by council is a situation where that is a workplace for them. Path is used by cyclists right into the local shops. So no one's carrying out work there. There's no work being done. A truck delivering building materials to a nearby site uses the road. That's an interesting one because the person driving the truck is certainly a worker and delivering materials. The view is that a person who is a delivery driver who's using the road is a worker, but their workplace doesn't extend to being the road. Their workplace is their vehicle, all parts of their vehicle, and it can also be their depot where their vehicle sort of is stored. That's an interesting one. So, and the last one, everyone just about thought that, yes, a pothole in the road carriageway being repaired by a council maintenance crew is certainly an example of a workplace. Excellent. Okay, you've got the hang of this, so we'll go on to the next one. So what is a workplace? This is a workplace when, we'll fire up the next poll, Marissa. Is it when children play on the equipment? Tree next to the park is trimmed by a qualified arborist. Additional play equipment is installed in accordance with an approved park master plan, or the last one, a children's party is held in the park when food is ordered from a delivery service. So well underway to having that one completed. Okay, I think we'll end the poll there and share the results. Lovely. Okay, so yep, on the first answer there, children play on the play equipment. Yep, no one. We thought that that wasn't a workplace. So that's correct. It's children aren't doing any work. They're using the structure, but it's not a workplace for them. A tree next to the park is trimmed by a qualified arborist. Now, assuming that that person is engaged by council, which normally would be the case, and that's an example of a workplace. Additional play equipment is installed. Again, an example of a workplace as new equipment is constructed or installed. And the last one, a party is held in the park and food is ordered from a delivery service. So not a workplace, and for a similar reason as the previous one, where we were looking at the delivery driver using the road, but the vehicle is their workplace. And there's certainly a lot of discussion in the news and other places around the safety of food delivery drivers when they're undertaking their work. So something that's an issue at the moment for sure. Okay, we've got, no, that was the last one. Let's move on now. So we've talked about what is a workplace. We've got an understanding of that, and you guys have done very well on those polls. I've got to make them a little bit harder perhaps for the next group. So the next thing we're going to talk about is structures. So what is a structure? Is it just a building? It's just a bridge? Those true structures that we know out there that everyone refers to as structures. Again, no, a structure is anything that is constructed. That's quite a simple definition, really. So it includes anything that's fixed, movable, temporary or permanent, doesn't matter. It can include buildings, masts, towers, framework, pipelines, transport infrastructure is listed, and underground works. So that, these are just examples. It's not an exhaustive list. And includes any component of a structure, any part of a structure. So in the early days when this legislation was first, I guess, issued in its current form, the term structure threw many people off because in a transport sense, we don't often refer to, for example, roads as structures. And there's probably a lot of other examples that we don't consider, we don't refer to them as structures. So structures, I guess the meaning of structures are normally tied to buildings and bridges and that sort of thing. So, so it was a common misconception that that structures only meant a certain sort of narrow field of things that we constructed. So certainly not the case, and this definition is very, very suitable because it includes sort of very clear term that anything constructed is considered a structure. So just like the workplace, we're going to run through a series of polls and just sort of explore that concept and make sure that everyone sort of gets on board with that. So on that note, we'll fire up the next poll, Marissa. So I'm showing you a picture here, and you'll have some options about what you can select as a structure. So what is a structure in the photo? Select all that apply. You've got the water under the bridge itself, the dumped rock, the pipe attached to the bridge are your options. Votes are rolling in. We're almost there. Give it another 5 seconds. Yep, just about there. Okay, we'll end that poll and share the results. Cool. All right. So you can see those. So the water under the bridge, it's natural. No one's constructed it. So that's spot on there. No one selected that one. Bridge, most certainly a structure. It's constructed. The dump rock, bit of a mixed response there. So it is being constructed. It's been placed there for I guess erosion, I guess protection. So it is constructed. Doesn't look like it was, doesn't look like a typical structure, but it's certainly constructed. And the pipe attached to the bridge is a structure as well. So yep, not bad there. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. So in this photo, select everything that applies and that you think is a structure. We've got the options are the sealed road, the trees, the gravel shoulder, and there's some fences behind the trees there. You can just see that it's some posts hidden amongst the trees. So I'm going to presume the trees are part of a pre-existing part of the environment here as well. So that might give you a tip. Almost there on this one. You guys are lightning quick on these polls. Okay, I think we can close it there, Marissa, and share the results. There we go. So, yep, the sealed road is certainly a structure. The trees, as I said, presuming they're a natural part of the environment, a pre-existing part of the environment, then they're not a structure. The gravel shoulder is a structure as well. It's been constructed and as part of the road construction, I'd assume. And fences are part of a structure, so they are a structure, pretty basic structure, but they are a structure nonetheless. So, and everyone just about got that one. So well done. Okay, moving on. It's a bit of a natural photo here. So what is the structure? You've got the trees along the creek line, I guess, a natural creek line, the natural grassed area, an open area, the mulch there in the sort of in that garden bed, I think, and some resting poles for koalas, I'm assuming. So select all those things that are structures that you can see in that image. Just about there. Okay, we'll close that poll and share the results. So the first two are not structures. That's correct. So just about got that. The placed mulch, yeah, is a structure. It's constructed. It was placed there. So you like you can construct a garden bed. That's been constructed. And the resting pole is certainly a structure as well. Not a complex structure, but still a structure. So excellent. Okay, we've got one more, maybe two more examples. Two more, I think. So here, what's the structure in this image? It's a built urban environment. You've got the options are the sealed road, so the narrow signs that you see there, signs with single post, concrete traffic islands, traffic signals. Yeah, I think we're just about there on this one. Well done. I think when you'll see the results in a second, the rest will share the results. Yeah, everything in that image is pretty much a structure. I don't think there's anything there that hasn't been constructed at some point. So well done on that one. And do we have one? No, we've got a couple more to go. I got carried away on these photos. So we'll go to the next poll on here. So this is Cedar Creek Road, actually. So we've got a few things in the image. We've got the sealed road. We've got the rough rock cutting. And we've got the trees and scrub all around there. So yeah, just as Marissa said in the chat there, if you have any questions, pop them in. I'll try and answer them on the run. If not, I'll come back to them at the end or when we have a break about midway through the webinar. So just about there on the poll. If we could close it there, Marissa, and share the results. Yep, there we go. So sealed road, certainly a structure. The rough rock cutting, well, I guess there's a construction process needed to achieve that rock cutting, even though it's a fairly rough thing, and using a natural material. It is a structure that has been constructed to that end state there. And the trees and scrub are not a structure, so spot on. So okay, we've got one more here, so I'll move on to that. Promise this is the last one about a structure. I think you're all well skilled in identifying what a structure is now. So in this option, you've got some buildings, you've got the sealed car park, you've got an inlet, and you've got some earthworks that have happened to create that level pad. I think we're just about there on this. Marissa, if you can close the poll and share the results. And I think we've just got 100% across the board there, which is correct. So I was trying to catch people out with the leveled earthworks pad, because again, we think of earthworks in whatever shape or form that earthworks might take, and we don't normally associate that with the term structure, but earthworks are constructed. Therefore, under the Work Health and Safety Act, they are a structure. Wonderful. Okay, we'll move on to the next concept that I just want to talk about. So a designer. So who is a designer? Is it just someone that uses AutoCAD and 12D like friends in the image there? Is a designer someone that needs to have a calculator and a set of plans in front of them to design something? So again, no, that's not the case. So, well, yes, those are examples of designers for sure, but a designer, the definition of a designer under the Work Health and Safety Act is much wider than that. So includes anyone that prepares sketches, plans, or drawings for a structure, including variations to a plan as well, so makes changes to a plan. And the second point here, so makes decisions for incorporation into a design that may affect the health and safety of persons who construct, use, or carry out other activities in relation to the structure, or are in the vicinity of the workplace and are exposed to the structure. So that sort of brings in that first definition that we covered. So that's the second part of that is an important one to note. So designer is anyone who makes decisions that can affect the health and safety of persons who will eventually use the structure. So I want to instead of a poll on this one, I'm just going to we're going to run into using the chat. So in the chat, I'd like you to think of the names of roles that you think might sort of fall under the definition of designer as it's defined in the Work Health and Safety Act. And so if you could access the chat function, if you can pop into there some of the roles that you think might fall under that designer definition. Give you a minute or so to think on that and dive for the chat. Engineer, Brendan, yes, that's the low-hanging fruit, I think. Yeah, cool. Oh, yeah, coordinator. Yeah, I think we had project responsible officer in the last session as well. So drafter, yeah, certainly. I'd say a drafter makes decisions, and there's that distinction between drafting and designing, I guess, but yeah, let others define what each of those are. But responded to an RFI. It's a good one, David. So that can make decisions that affect the structure, affect health and safety. So maybe your first prize out to David. Yeah.
There's also another interesting one there. I don't think we got last time, was a construction worker. So if that is correct, if that construction worker makes a change to a design without getting other input, that's correct, isn't it, Paul?
That's right. So making decisions, including variations to a structure. Yep. Variations to plans. And tech officers, site engineers, all good examples there. Carpenter.
Resident. That's an interesting one. This is like the stakeholder one. The public. Did you want to take that one, or?
Yeah. Look, we had that one. I think it was a question that came up last time. So, is a resident a designer? Do they make decisions about structures? Well, I guess typically, if council had a project, they might go out to the community for input. To get some views and feedback on a proposal, but ultimately, I guess the view is that, and I think this is how it works, Marco, correct me if I'm wrong, all that feedback is taken back into and considered by council officers, and then they're ultimately the decision makers about whether the consultation and the feedback results in any changes to the structure or to the proposal being considered.
Yeah, that's right. They may provide input, but they don't make the decision.
Yep. And we've got some other ones there, concreter, or arborists, and there's certainly the potential, I guess, for workers to affect or make changes to the design of a structure. And when you make those changes without consulting the designer, the original designer, then you become a designer under the Work Health and Safety Act. Okay, so these are some of, I think most of these have probably been covered in the chat there. So I've got a bunch of designers there in varying roles, surveyors, landscape architects, town planners, building services designers, contractors carrying out design work. So just because you may call yourself a contractor doesn't mean that you can say you're not a designer. So if you're a contractor that undertakes design, say as part of a design and construct contract, there's certainly a design role that you take on there. And the last one there, the dot point, is around persons who specify how the work is carried out, and that might be through an RFI response. It might be through a specification or a work instruction that accompanies a design. So they too are also a designer. And some of those key points, I think I've mentioned these all, but I just wanted to reinforce these. So a designer, anyone that makes variations to a plan or changes to a structure, specifies how work is carried out. I just talked about that, and contractors carrying out design work. All examples of designers and design activity under the Work Health and Safety Act. Okay, All right, let's, so the last point I just wanted to hone in on was, or is, what is reasonably practical? And so safety in design requires a designer to ensure, so far as is reasonably practical, that a structure will be designed without risks to health and safety. And when that's not possible, when when something can't be designed without risk, so risks are not eliminated, then we've got to make sure that they're reasonably minimised as far as reasonably practical. So, is the guy in the picture, is that a reasonably practical way to mitigate yourself or mitigate a risk? Most instances, probably not. But maybe there's an odd case where you do want to wrap yourself up in bubble wrap to protect yourself. But in most cases, that probably won't be the answer. So deciding what reasonably practical is requires considering a number of things, and we'll go into more detail on some of these, I guess, definitions. So deciding what reasonably practical requires considering the likelihood of exposure to a hazard, the degree of harm from exposure to the hazard, availability and suitability of ways to eliminate or minimize the risk. That requires some knowledge of the hazard, and the cost associated with eliminating or minimizing the risk, including consideration of whether that cost is grossly disproportionate to the risk. So if the value of the way that you're considering to eliminate or minimize the risk is 4 times the value of your project budget, that perhaps is not is going to affect your actual influence your decision about whether it's reasonably practical. So I'm going to go into in the next module, when we talk a bit more about the risk assessments. We'll hone in on some of those terms like likelihood of exposure, degree of harm, which might be a consequence from exposure to the hazard. So I'm going to talk about that in more detail in the next module. So we're going to go through another exercise here. We've got some more polls to run through. So we're just going to think about what might be reasonably practical. What are the reasonably practical ways to eliminate the risk? Or if it's not reasonably practical, we want to think about ways to minimize the risk as so far as is reasonably practical. So in these exercises, I'm going to describe the hazard and then the risk. And then in the poll, we're going to give you some options, some suggestions, ideas about ways that might or might not be reasonably practical to eliminate this the risk that we're talking about. So the first exercise here, I've defined that the hazard is working at heights. The risk, so the event that is going to occur, is that a worker falls from heights when they're replacing a luminaire on one of those light poles in the image. So I want to think about some of those aspects. I think the pole's up. So think about some of those considerations you need to make when you're deciding about whether something is reasonably practical. So I think we've started the poll. There it is. So these are the options for you to consider whether they're reasonably practical ways to eliminate or minimize the risk. So the first one is just don't worry about road lighting, and the risk won't exist. Use hinge poles that can be maintained from the ground. Third option, specify a long life luminaire that costs a little more. Presumably it means that you won't be up there as often doing a replacement. Design a drone to change a luminaire is the last one. Give it another 10 seconds as everyone ponders those options. Okay, I think we can end the poll there. So share the results. Thanks, Marissa. There we go. So no one thought that just ignoring road lighting and not providing it would be reasonably practical, and that's correct. Yeah, we'll talk about it in Module 2 in more detail, but safety and design always needs to be balanced with other design objectives, design considerations. So I guess there's a decision made to provide road lighting because it will improve the safety of all road users, those in vehicles and those moving along the road. So by not providing it, there's a risk associated with that. The second option, they're using hinge poles that can be maintained from ground level. That's certainly maybe reasonably practical. They're not awfully common. Perhaps that's due with some space considerations and you know, the ability to accommodate them within a pretty, you know, constrained road reserve, but certainly can be an option. The long life luminaire is also, we also think as a group that's reasonably practical to do that. It only costs a little more, and if we can reduce the I guess the exposure, the likelihood of that event occurring, then that would be certainly a way to not eliminate the risk, but minimise the risk. Design a drone to change the luminaire. Marco tells me that surveyors and council have drones, but they're not capable of replacing luminaires just yet. So maybe that technology is on the way. Drones seem to do a lot of things, but yeah, I think at this point in time, then it's probably not reasonably practical. So that's a good first exercise. We've got a few more to go, so we'll just move on to the next one. So in this situation, we've got a hazard, and this is one of the projects that we've used as an example, which you'll see in Module 2 in your exercise. So the hazard here is working near water. It's a coastal area. You'll be subject to tidal influences. And the risk is drowning when working on the project down at the base of the cliff level there. So you can see that there's some work going on there. So we're going to see what ways might be reasonably practical to eliminate this risk. So there are your options. Work only at low tides. Construct a temporary cofferdam in Moreton Bay for the limits of the work. Use a lookout to warn of big waves and undertake works from the top of the cliff. A few different options there. So almost there. Okie doke, I think we're pretty close there. We can close the poll and share the results. So, so as a group, we thought that working only during low tide periods would be reasonably practical. And I tend to agree. That's right. Scheduling the work so that your exposure to the risk or to the is minomised. The second one, constructing a temporary cofferdam in Moreton Bay for the limit of the works. That's probably haven't given you a lot of detail around that, and that certainly could be reasonably practical. There are, I guess, costs associated with that. There'd be some approvals. The length of dam and the ability to construct it would be part of that consideration. We don't have all the information around what that solution would look like or cost or its effectiveness, its availability and suitability. Is that actually possible? So it's very fair that we've got a bit of a mix of opinions around that. So and that's what we'll find when we ask whether things are reasonably practical. There is a degree of subjectivity involved in that. We're going to get different answers depending on who we speak to and the knowledge that they have. So the third one, use a lookout to warn for big waves. Look, that's probably practical. Whether it's effective, I'm not too sure. And the last one, undertake works from the top of the cliff. Well, in some cases that would be, I think, reasonably practical. You can see that there's a boom position, concrete boom sort of position on the top of the cliff there in the photo. So some aspects of that stabilization could be undertaken from the top of the cliff, not all of them. So I can understand where there's a mix of responses there. Excellent. All right, well done. We'll go on to the next one. So in this one, we've got a hazard. It's a hazard we'll probably encounter often, particularly for transport projects. So the hazard is live traffic, so working near live traffic. The risk we have is around, or I've defined here, is around vehicles crashing into workers maintaining that landscape median. Now, it's quite a healthy median. It's in Southbank, if anyone's familiar with it. I'm not really sure what's going on there with that landscaping. There's a separate road safety issue that I think is not great there. But I just want to think about, for this exercise, the risk to workers that might be maintaining that landscaping there. So let's look at the poll, Marissa. What are our options here? So the first one, maintain the median only when the road is close to traffic with diversions in place. Place signs warning of workers on the road. Use a lookout to warn of errant vehicles. Use a median treatment that does not require maintenance by works from the ground. Getting there. I think you guys are getting quicker on these polls. Give another couple of seconds. Marissa, okay, I think we're just about there. We'll share the results. So in the first, a lot of support for maintaining the median only when the road is closed to traffic with diversions in place, and that can be reasonably practical in some instances where you've got reasonable diversions. If your road is a sort of a one-way in, one-way out to an area, then completely closing the road might be suitable. Might affect other parts of society, emergency services access, other supply of other services. So that's in the main, I think, is mostly a reasonably practical example, I think. The second one, place signs warning of workers on the road. Yes, certainly reasonably practical. Use a lookout to warn of errant vehicles. Now, I guess that if the risk does eventuate or occur, it's going to be fairly quick. So in terms of cost, it's probably reasonably practical. To its suitability, it's probably not greatly suitable, but there's subjectivity there. So it would have to be considered on a case-by-case basis. And the last one, use a median treatment that does not require maintenance by works on the ground. That comes back to the other consideration that we had. So there are, I guess, amenity considerations. There's some aspects of place, I guess, and when those decisions are made to landscape a median. Certainly benefits there to provide a landscape median. It looks great. That one in Southbank, it's got other issues, but so it's that term of balancing safety and design against other objectives. So certainly could be reasonably practical, but it requires that balance. Excellent. Okay, I'm just going to, I think that was the last poll there for at least a little while. So just want to reinforce that definition of safety and design that I introduced to you at the start of the session, and then we'll have a little break before we go on and talk about other safety and design considerations. So the safety and design requires a designer to ensure, so far as is reasonably practical, we just looked at that, that a structure is designed to be without risks to the health and safety of persons. So we've got the word structure there. We know what structure includes, anything that is constructed. So a structure is designed to be without risk to the health and safety of persons who at a workplace use the structure for what the purpose for which it was designed. Construct the structure. We've got to maintain the structure, any reasonably foreseeable activity. Usually that relates to maintenance, but it can also be around demolition and disposal of a structure. If a structure doesn't have a very long design life, that could be a high consideration. And or persons who are in the vicinity of a workplace are exposed to the structure. So if you have any questions as we move into a break, just drop them into the chat. We'll take a 5-minute break now. So it's 2:53 on my clock. So I'll be back at 2:58. I'm gonna grab a drink, go to the bathroom, knock yourself out, and we'll see you at 2:58. I'll just wait another minute or so until the clock ticks over. There we go. 2:58. So let's get going again. Just a reminder, if you have any good questions, add them to the chat. It could get you a prize. So we'll get underway, and we're going to talk about some other considerations of safety and design. So just a quick poll to straight off the bat, just to see that we're back and we're thinking about safety and design again. So those two acronyms there, we've got SAFARAP and ALARP, are two different approaches used in risk and safety management. So just a quick question, is it the same thing? You've got 3 options. Looks like the poll is up and running there. So is it the same thing? Yes or no or not sure? So SAFARAP, you've probably heard these before. ALARP, so far as is reasonably practical, as low as reasonably practical. Here we go in there. We've got, need a few more responses. Maybe people just getting back from their break. Didn't schedule this way, but this is a good way, Marco, to make sure everyone's back from their break. I think just to see how many responses we've got.
Yes, it is a good test.
All right, we're getting up almost. We're getting close.
Sneaky little trick, isn't it?
I didn't even. Yeah, this is not even one from the training team. Usually, you guys have got.
No, it's not.
You got all the
This
tricks
was
and
your
tips.
idea.
It was. What are we there?
Maybe we'll end the poll there.
Yeah, we'll end the poll there. A few people might be getting a longer drink or a coffee or something like that.
Yeah.
So let's see what we have got in the poll. Share the results. So we've got most people thought, well, a few weren't sure. Most people thought no, they weren't the same thing. A couple of people said, yeah, they're the same thing, and they do. On the surface, they sound pretty similar. But no, they're not. They're not the same thing. There is a difference between the two, and in some cases, even the organisation sort of may use the two interchangeably. It's sort of it's a debate out there in industry and probably beyond around these two. But the generally accepted view is that the SAFARAP approach is precaution based. And it takes the view of what can be done, should be done to minimise risk, whereas the ALARP approach often sets a a risk target. And once that risk target is achieved, say you're looking to mitigate all risks to medium, and once you've achieved, mitigated all your identified risks to a medium level, then you say, great job done. And there is that tendency to say, well, we don't need to do anything further because we've reduced our risks. Whereas the Safari approach, will say, well, if you've got your risk to say medium, for example, but there is something that you could reasonably do to further reduce the risk to a low level or even eliminate it, then that's what you should do. So it's important because the approach in the work health and safety app is that Safari app approach. So just to introduce that there are two different concepts there in the thinking behind the Safari app approach. Wonderful. Okay. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is knowledge and capability. So design projects, many design projects these days are crossed out maybe and sort of said are often too complex to be fully understood just by one person, maybe except if you're Marco, then you know everything. No, just kidding. But in more recent times, you're not going to claim that, Marco. No, in more recent times, yeah, especially there's quite a move to specialisation in technical and engineering disciplines for a range of vehicles, so reasons. And so it'd be very unlikely that one person will have a full and detailed understanding of all parts of a project. There might be some sort of reasonably simple and straightforward design projects that could be the case, but as projects are increasing in size and complexity, it's probably going to involve more than input from more than one person or one design discipline. So in practice, that means that safety and design is more than just a one-person job, more than just someone sitting there and undertaking an assessment all on their own, and considering that the job is done. So I've got something that comes to mind is the Brisbane Metro project that's happening in Brisbane at the moment, and go through here a little bit. It's a busway station where they're extending the platform of the busway station under what was a live, or is still a live road, O'Keefe Street. So you've got the Pacific Motorway above there. So you've got a lot of moving parts there. And you can see that we've got structures, the bridge structure, you've got temporary works, you've got electrical components, you've got live traffic, the bus station. No doubt there's geotech involvement in the project. So it is certainly complex environment. So this means that we need people with specific skills and experience need to be included in a design team or consulted during the safety and design process to complete any knowledge gaps that we might have. Personally, I've been involved in safety and design assessments that have included anywhere from say 3 to 4 people up to around 25 people in order to have all skills represented. So here is a very incomplete list of skill areas that might need to have involvement in a project, depending on what sort of project it is. There's probably many more skill areas and disciplines that you can add to that list. So just to get you thinking and to use the chat again, I'd like in the chat if you can identify some of the skill areas you think will have been required for these designs. So the design shown on, I guess, the completed works on your screen there. So we've got sort of an underpass structure under an existing bridge, an older bridge. Excellent. Yeah, we've got a bit of a creek on to the left-hand side there. We've got some landscaping there. Yep, we've got some responses flowing in now. Flood analysis, spot on. Hydraulic and flood. We've got that landscape architect for the landscape elements. Civil designers, spot on. Structures, yes. Town planning, drainage, yep. For, drain the path. Surveyors, yep. Guys are on the money. Active transport planning, yeah, Neil, it's a good one. Road safety, yep. So certifiers, yep. Safety barriers, yeah. Not sure about that barrier on the approach to the bridge. Now that you mentioned safety barriers, Paul. Lighting, any. Yeah, there's a few there. I like is active transport planning is important. I guess we've got to when the design was being completed, active transport was certainly a consideration, I guess, in the design of the shared path and treatments. And I guess when we think about that, we've just got to separate some of the risks involved in the use of the path against some of those workplace related risks. So that's important, but certainly considerations. Any prize-worthy responses there, Marco?
I was thinking the safety barrier, because I don't think we had that last time.
No, we didn't. So
that was Paul, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm just scrolling through them all. Well, if we give one to Neil for active transport, we'll have to give one to Brendan as well, because he had active transport literally a second after Neil.
Okay.
So this is where we're dicing with danger.
Okay. How many prizes do you have, Marissa? Yeah, fully stocked merch cupboard there.
Got enough. We've got enough.
Okay, good. Excellent. All right, well, crack on to the next one.
Thanks, Neil.
We'll give another.
He's just...
Okay. So yeah, we've got the next image there, and this is Old North Road. So it shows the 4-lane divided carriageway. We've got some road lighting. We've got the signals. You can see all the other bits and pieces there. So let's see what sort of disciplines do you think would need to provide complete representation of all the skills and knowledge required to contribute to this design. Energetics, yeah. Structures, transmission, yeah. I think, I think I'll give it to Glenn. I think even these energetics, I think he's referring to the transmission lines there. So that's certainly important. Those HV, power link assessment and approval. Yep. Spot on. Certainly important, and I think that's the reason that those light poles are as low as they are there, and you've got some of those tilt poles things, so that when a worker is replacing that, is servicing those light poles, replacing those luminaires, they're not in an elevated work platform. They're not putting themselves closer to those HV transmission lines. So that's excellent. Yeah. James, another good one there, fauna fences. So we can give a prize to that one as well, unless someone else has sort of said it earlier. I'll let maybe Marissa adjudicate that one.
Where is it? A prize for Colin as well, because I think he gave us 6. Linesman, electrical engineers, town planning, civil roads.
Oh, he's cheating. He's eager.
All relevant. Yeah, so some of those considerations about that fauna infrastructure, I guess, is how's it constructed? Does it need any maintenance? So I guess there's a water course running through there as well, and I know because I was involved in the design, there is some green infrastructure through one of those culverts there. So how is that maintained? Is it going to get, is it going to be some, it's going to be clogged with debris, going to affect the performance of the culverts? Are you going to get people down there often to maintain and to clear out those culverts? So all those considerations are important. Wonderful. All right. Next one. So this is the last one on knowledge and capability. So this is back at the Bribie Island Bridge. We had a photo of that before. So now this is looking at the another active travel path. This time sort of under the bridge, sort of at a lower level. Obviously constructed sometime after the bridge was constructed. So what are the elements here that we need to bring together? That knowledge and capability, skills, what are those aspects we need to bring together to ensure that we've covered and can assess safety and design? Marine engineers, structures, retaining walls, retaining wall design. Yeah, how's the retaining wall constructed? Is there water ingress issues because of the level and the adjacent Hummerstone passage? I don't have the knowledge and capability myself to answer those questions. So certainly need to get the right people involved in the safety and design assessment. So hydraulics, drainage, yeah. So it's obviously sort of grading down from both sides there. There must be some sort of drainage mechanism there that gets the water out. Otherwise, it'd be a bit of a bathtub slash swimming pool. So again, how does that work? Where's that contained? And if it fails, yeah, how does someone get to it to repair it? So barrier fences, yep. Wonderful. Any favourites among those responses, Marco? I feel
Paul, can I just,
yes.
sorry, can I just pop in quickly? Paul Webb, he's got his hand up. I don't know if he wanted to chat or maybe it was a click of a button. But just let us know, Paul. Oh, no, I think he's lowered it. Okay, we're good. It's okay.
His hand up for a while, maybe. Yeah, I feel immense pressure to give out prizes here, and I think Marco, you might have to step in and take up some of that burden.
Yeah, I'm just running through the list now.
So many good responses.
Everyone gets a prize, like Oprah.
All right. Marco's struggling as well.
There's a couple of people throwing multiple answers in the one thing now because we gave a prize away last time.
Okay.
Oh, I like the marine engineer. That was James Willie.
Marine, yeah, yep. There we go. Prize to James. So yeah, how does that? How do the marine actions, I guess, in that area affect the design of that structure?
And also Kevin, this was on only one person put in last time as well, which was the mechanical and electrical pumps.
Yep.
So Kevin as well.
Yep. Assuming that they're there somewhere. But yeah, definitely a big consideration. Okay, next thing we'll step into is talking about consultation, cooperation, and coordination. So we talked then about I guess a lot of the design skills and capabilities needed to have a full and complete safety and design assessment. But hand in hand with that also goes the necessity to draw on knowledge of I guess others, the experience of others, including manufacturers, suppliers, construction workers, and maintenance workers. So it's a consultation with workers. It's an essential part of managing the work health and safety risks. And it's also a legal requirement to consult with workers when you're a designer of a structure. So it's very important, and it's for the same reasons that we, as designers, that we need to involve, a range of design disciplines. So we have a complete sort of knowledge set of our design to allow us to undertake a safety and design risk assessment. For the same reason, we need to involve with those workers that will construct the structure, that maintain the structure, because they have knowledge that we as designers just don't have as well. So there's also manufacturers and suppliers are important then, and I've got some examples here of reasons or occasions we may need to consult with manufacturers or suppliers, and that might include when we're considering incorporating a product, a proprietary system within our design. You might, read the technical information that you can find online, but aside from that, you don't have a great knowledge of the product. So you might consider getting a supplier representative or a manufacturer representative out and involved in your safety and design process, depending on the nature of I guess the structure and then the product that you're considering incorporating. So if it's a big part of your design and there's some potential risk associated with it, it would be highly advisable that you bring in that knowledge of the suppliers and manufacturers. So in what stages must safety and design be considered? So we need to consider safety design in all stages of a design process. So in our design life cycle, we've got a planning, concept design and detail design, and in considering safety and design as early as possible in that design life cycle gives us the best ability to influence changes and influence the health and safety of a design. Also acknowledging that, I guess, when you're in that early stage of planning and strategic planning, your design maturity isn't as developed. So that may limit the level of detail of assessment that you can reasonably undertake, but it's important to consider safety and design in the early stage, even if you don't have a lot of that design definition underway. We'll talk about that a lot more in Module 2 when we run through our safety and design process. I mentioned it a couple of times earlier in the presentation when we were talking about those key terms and we were running through those polls, but there's going to be other design considerations that will have to be factored into and considered alongside safety and design, and that could be in the way of policies, strategies, plans, standards, guidelines, other frameworks, other objectives like movement in place or CPTED or your road safety objectives, considering the safe system approach. So it's important though to realise that the safety, I guess, standards and guidelines often address safety, but the application, like the strict application of a standard or guideline, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to adequately control workplace related risk. Just like just like if we were to apply a guideline in the road safety field, which are working a fair bit, if we apply standards and guidelines, doesn't necessarily mean we're going to end up with a design that eliminates all road safety risks from our network. So it's an important distinction, and that also applies to the consideration of workplace safety and design risks. So just because you've applied the standard, you've got a completely perfectly compliant design with no design exceptions or extended design domain or any other things going on, doesn't mean you're gonna have a design which is free of workplace risks. So particularly the case if you've got structures which are unusual or atypical, then safety and design is very important. So we'll talk about risk management and how we apply risk management to achieve the aims of safety and design. So safety and design aims to eliminate risks in the workplace, and when we can't eliminate them, then we mitigate them or minimise them as far as reasonably practical. Risk management is a process that allows continuous improvement, and we'll cover this more in Module 2, but there's a risk management process that we undertake as part of safety and design, and it's very much similar to I'm sure some of the risk management processes that you use as part of your projects at the moment. Excuse me. So yeah, it's important that though, whilst this may look familiar and looks like a very standard risk assessment table, it's important to keep a distinction between safety and design risks and other risks that exist to project objectives. And a frequent question I've had in the past is whether we can combine a risk register with our project register, or if we're having a safety and design workshop, can we hold the project risk workshop and the safety and design risk workshop together or next to each other? Can we just save a bit of time doing things that way? Because safety and design is a focus on workplace risks, it's really important that there's a clear understanding distinction between workplace risks and other project risks. So it's not advisable to try and combine the two, or have a workshop just to save time. We'll just have it back to back with a project risk workshop and then a safety and design workshop. So I'm not sure if that happens nowadays, but it's happened to me a few times in my career where that question's been posed, and it's important just to separate them as best you can so that people can focus on workplace risks in the safety design process, and other risks are considered separately. So talking about risk management, we know a lot of hazards and their risks quite well, and we have a lot of effective controls that we can apply to mitigate those risks that we know about. Some examples of this might be operations with an excavator. We're working with concrete, say, for example. Another couple of safe work method statements here about working at heights or excavating and trenching. So just because the swim exists doesn't mean that we shouldn't look to eliminate or minimise the risk. But if the swim is minimising that risk so far as is reasonably practical, then the risk assessment process can refer to those established ways that we have to minimise risk. Next one, and we're just about at the end, but I'm going to look ahead in a second to the small group exercise that we're going to undertake in Module 2. But this is the final sort of point that I wanted to cover around those extra considerations around safety and design. So it's around design certification and RPEQs. And in Queensland, I'm sure many of you are aware that professional engineering services are required to be carried out or supervised by an RPEQ, a Registered Professional Engineer of Queensland. So in the Moreton Bay Safety and Design procedure, then if your design is considered, the design of a structure is considered an engineering service and does have an RPEQ on board to certify your design, then the RPEQ should also be involved in the safety and design process and supervise that safety and design process, because it is it's completely related to the design of the structure. So I can't imagine, regardless of the safety and design procedure, any RPEQ going, no, I don't need to be involved in that, thanks very much. But there are other structures that may not require that engineering certification, and when that's the case, then it's acceptable. Then the safety and design process does not need RPEQ supervision. Okay, so we're just going to look ahead to the small group exercise we've got planned for Module 2. We've got a fair, actually, I think I've I'm just gonna jump onto this. I think I have muddled up my slides slightly. Okay, so I just want to before we dive into that look ahead, just to cover off on what we did for module 1. So we talked about what safety and design is, and covered off those 4 key terms: structure, designer, and reasonably practical. And if you've got a good understanding of what those are, then you're well on the way to an effective safety and design assessment and applying the safety and design process. The other considerations that we touched on were an understanding of the difference between the SAFAR app and the ALARP approach to risk management. Talked about knowledge and capability. It's in relation to design skills, design knowledge. Talked about consultation, cooperation, and coordination, and that's bringing in people into the safety and design process that will be involved in the construction and the maintenance, the supply and manufacture of your structures. Talked about other design considerations and how they need to be balanced with safety and design. We looked at our design life cycle, talked about risk management and how we address or treat those known risks, that we have procedures in place to minimise. And then lastly, we talked about design certification, the role of RPQs in the design process. So I'll just duck back here and I'll see what I've got. Okay, back on track, I think. So look ahead to module 2. So in module 2, we've got a bit of a packed session. So I just wanted to give you a bit of an early look ahead on some of those small group exercises that we will cover in module 2, so we can just have a bit of extra time up our sleeve to undertake our safety and design assessment. So in module 2, we'll break you into small groups and ask you to undertake part of a safety and design assessment on a design project, and we'll get you to identify the design context. We've actually done that for you, so you skip that bit. You'll identify the risk context and the safety and design consultation group members. So that'll make a bit more sense to you once we've run through the module 2 tomorrow, what that safety and design consultation group is. And then we'll undertake you'll undertake as small groups a safety and design risk assessment. And we'll get you to identify somewhere between 2 and 4 risks, safety and design risks, and some mitigations. Then we'll come back to the wider group, and we'll have a brave representative from each small group present 2 risk items to the wider group. So we've selected 6 different design projects that have been undertaken for or by the City of Moreton Bay. I'm just going to run through each of those. We'll have a quick chat about them, some of the aspects of them, and then you'll sort of be able to take those away, think about them. You can access the plans if you want to in the learning management system before the workshop if you're really keen. But otherwise, we can do that during the workshop or the workshop tomorrow. So the first project is cliff stabilisation at Scarborough, and we had that photo earlier in the webinar where we looked at that work actually being undertaken. So the project involves a few parts. It involves the removal of the unstable top part of the cliff. You can see there's a bit of a cutback there that might be undertaken from the top of the cliff, I guess. We have some stabilisation and some removal of loose materials from the midsection, and there's some concrete protection provided at the base of the cliff. So that's when we had that had the question around, what reasonably practical ways did we have to eliminate or minimise some of the risks associated with the work at the bottom of the cliff and the risk of drowning because of the coastal nature of the work. So that's the first one, just to get you thinking these early. The second one is the upgrade of Cedar Creek Road. So I've got the type section, not the type section, one of the annotated cross sections, and it sort of lines up with the image here that I've got from Street View. So you can sort of see that there is some reasonable road widening here. You've got a bit of a drop off on the existing surface on the right hand side of your screen there, so that's probably down that bank somewhere. The pavement is being constructed, looks like pretty much on top of the existing pavement, if you can sort of see that from there. So there might be some height differences at different times between the design pavement and the old pavement. I think this part of Cedar Creek Road might be relevant in terms of your consideration of mitigations. This is a one-way in, one-way out road. So there's serves I guess a catchment that is wholly dependent on this road for access. There's no other ways to access this this part of the world. Okay, number 3. So this is an interesting one. Someone you see every day. So it's the there's a bioretention basin that exists in Bray Park, and the project is to replace or remove, decommission is the word that I'm looking for there, the existing bioretention basin and replace it with a stormwater pipe. So it's a very narrow looking basin here. It's got some existing sandstone blocks that it forms the basin. So it's going to be demolished in a, if you can see there, a 1050 diameter concrete pipe is going to be placed there instead. So you can see by that scale, it's quite deep there as it is, and as it is existing right now. And that's probably that's the reason, obviously, for the fence all the way around it. So some considerations there about how that's actually demolished is quite interesting, actually. So you can see further along in the screen there, you can see, catch a little bit of it. There's a bus bay, some paths adjacent to it. So we might be thinking about, well, how are people going to be exposed to this when it's a workplace? That might be a fair consideration. Number 4, it's an LATM scheme and stormwater renewal at Woody Point. So there's a new stormwater pipe. You'll get a full set of, a near full set of drawings for each of these, so you'll be able to dive into a little bit more detail than is on the screen here. But this is just to introduce each of the projects and get you thinking ahead. So you can see here that there's the LATM scheme includes a new central median. It is landscapes there. From the other drawings in the set, you'll be able to see that the stormwater pipe is installed longitudinally along the road. Is some existing services there. Obviously, this is a road that's open to traffic right now as a hotel, and there's accommodation and shops there, so a busy spot. Next one is some fauna infrastructure at Eaton's Hill. This is an interesting one. There's a few different elements to it. So I think there's a fauna fence along Eaton's Crossing Road there. You can see it's the red thing there. There's a fauna rope bridge under this road bridge here. So that's that red line there that passes under the road bridge. There's also fauna post and rail post and rail arrangement, I guess, through a culvert. That's probably up here somewhere through this bank. See, there's a post and rail, and there's another post and rail arrangement under the road bridge as well. So there's a few things going on there. Access might be a consideration. You're working near looks like a creek of some sort there. So how do you get in there? What's your site looking like? Can you construct these things with minimal risk or no risk? Excellent. So we'll move on to the last one. So this is a playground at Griffin. There's no street view available of this site here. It's fairly new. You'll see when you get your design pack that there is a schedule of finishes, some specifications about the various items within the playground. There's an indicative footpath alignment there. You can see that provides connection down to that road there. There is that's the Pine River there, so there is the interaction with the river. Not sure exactly the terrain, the level difference there between the river and the site, so something that you could probably consider as well. Okay, so that sort of brings us to the end of our module today. Sorry, this one it's not one that we'll cover. So there's six sites that we'll look at as part of our exercise tomorrow. And yeah, if there's any questions, just pop them in the chat. If you've got any questions that you think about after we're finished, you can also save them up and ask them tomorrow. And I think, Marissa, you're going to run through the learning management system before we sign off for the day. Yep.
I will indeed. I'll just take over the screen. And you can see my screen, Paul?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so yeah, so this is our LMS system. Hopefully you've all had a chance to log in and have a look around. If you haven't, please do. You will need access to the learning management system, one, to complete the course, but particularly for tomorrow's session. We have a bunch of documents that you'll need to refer to for the small group exercise that Paul's just briefly mentioned. So please be sure to log on and have it handy tomorrow while you're on the next session, tomorrow, module 2. So just to take you through the site, we've got the link to the webinar and some course information, the agenda document and so on that we've sent you. But if you need to access them again, just a bit of an introductions page. You're welcome to just a bit of a forum that you can pop in and say hello and introduce yourself, but you might already know the members in your group on the course today. We have a resources tab where Paul and Marco have popped in a bunch of resources that you might like to refer to. So feel free to browse them. We also have the safety and design manual that is in draft form that Paul referred to earlier. So please feel free to have a read and forward through any comments or anything to Marco or Paul on that one. Module 1 for today, we've got the Module 1 presentation here, PDF of all the slides that Paul has ran through. And we have a quiz. We have a quiz for you today. It's your task for Module 1. It's just a quick quiz, 10 or so questions, multiple choice, fairly simple, based on all of the content that you've heard today. So you just click on the Module 1 quiz, attempt that button, and yeah, you're just going through, read the question, pop in your answers. You do need to get an 80% mark or higher, so 8 out of 10 questions correctly. If you get something wrong, you can try again. No issues there. You get up to 3 attempts, and if by chance you need more attempts, just let us know. Shoot me an email and I can reset your attempts there.
I think based on the responses we were getting in the poll today in the chat, I don't think there'll be any trouble completing that quiz for anyone there. So yep.
They'll be fine. Yeah, that's module 1. Just scrolling down to module 2. Module 2 presentation for tomorrow if you'd like to have a browse. But we have the small group exercise folder here that we're going to access for tomorrow's small group exercise online. But if you do want to have a browse through all of these sites that Paul just ran through in a bit of a deeper look, you're welcome to access one of the drawings. Now, tomorrow you will only be allocated to one. You'll be allocated to a group, and that group will be basically use the group that you'll be accessing. So if you're allocated to group 1, you'll be accessing group 1 documents and going through them. But just to give you a bit of an idea of what that looks like, For example, this is the group 1, design and site drawings, and you can have a scroll through if you'd like to. Feel free to have a browse. And we've also got here a group 1 exercise Word document, which is what you'll be populating tomorrow. So you don't need to populate it today, but if you want to have a look ahead, feel free to open the documents and have a browse. That way you're familiar with them tomorrow. But you will need access to this tomorrow to complete the documents and have a run through online when we come back together as a group. This is the Word document. So it's just a few things there that will get you to populate as a group. But we'll go through more of that tomorrow. But that is where they are located, should you want to have a browse. But we've left you with...
I was going to say we'll allocate you tomorrow just in case there's some people can't make it, and if we set groups today, there's a chance that because of other commitments or things that come up, we might end up with a group with 1 or 2 people in it. So we do that tomorrow. We give you access to all those designs, so you can just have an idea of the expectation for the small group exercise tomorrow. It's fairly straightforward, so I'm sure that you'll have no problem with it.
Yeah, exactly. Assign you to some random groups tomorrow. But for today's session, we finished a little bit earlier. We've given you some time to jump into the LMS, complete the quiz, module 1 quiz. That way it's done and out of the way. And I think that's about it for today. Today's session was in a webinar format. Tomorrow's session will look a little different when you pop in. We're going to be in a meeting format. So and that's just because that gives us the functionality to set the breakout rooms. So when you do join the meeting, you will have access or have the ability to turn your cameras on and off and mute yourself and unmute yourself, so on. So we just ask that you keep yourself muted throughout the session. You're welcome to keep your cameras on, whatever you like. Keep your pajamas on, turn it off, whatever you want. But just when you join, it'll look a little bit different tomorrow. And I think that's about it for today. Anything else, Marco or Paul?
I'll just reiterate so that people did get the message that you only have to do 1 of those projects tomorrow, not all of them. Don't panic.
No. And you're not marking you or anything on them. It's just a bit of a group exercise together where we're online, and we'll just get you to present back. But nothing you marked on. Don't sweat. Great.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't have anything else, and
awesome.
We'll catch everyone at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Right.
More prizes
Great.
tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone. More Batman. See you tomorrow, baby.
Hey guys.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.